day I lost Margaret was the day the world stopped spinning. 47 years of marriage ended in a single moment. We had plans for that weekend, a drive to see the grandkids, dinner at our favorite restaurant, but life doesn't care about our plans, does it? You know, they call us widowers, but that word feels too small for what we become. When you've spent half a century with someone, their absence isn't just an empty space, it's like learning to walk again with one leg. I'm sharing this today because I know many of you have walked this path, or worry about walking it someday. The statistics tell us that by age 75, nearly half of women and 1/5 of men have lost their spouse. But what those numbers don't tell you is how to put one foot in front of the other, the morning after. For 6 months after Margaret passed, I made mistakes, terrible, lonely mistakes that nobody warned me about. I pushed people away when I needed them most. I neglected things that mattered. I made financial decisions I regret to this day, but I also discovered truths about grief, about healing, about finding purpose again, truths I wish someone had shared with me. Today, I'm going to tell you the 7 things I desperately wish I'd known when I became a widower. And please, stay until the end, because the 7th lesson changed everything for me, and it's the one most people never discover. Point number 1, the grief timeline is not what you expect. When Margaret first passed, everyone told me the same thing. It gets better with time. They meant well, but they were wrong. Grief doesn't simply fade away on a neat timeline, and expecting it to follow some orderly pattern only made me feel worse when it didn't. Let me tell you about my friend Tom. Tom lost his wife of 52 years quite suddenly to a stroke. He put on a brave face at the funeral, handled all the arrangements perfectly, and even hosted family for dinner afterward. "I'm doing okay," he kept telling everyone. 3 months later, when everyone had returned to their normal lives, Tom found himself unable to get out of bed for 4 days straight. "I thought I was having a breakdown," he told me. "I thought something was wrong with me because I was getting worse, not better." What Tom didn't know, what I didn't know, is that grief comes in waves, not in a straight line. Scientists who study bereavement call this oscillation. Good days followed by bad days, sometimes triggered by birthdays or anniversaries, but sometimes striking out of nowhere. Dr. Catherine Shear from Columbia University's Center for Complicated Grief explains that our brains actually need time to process the reality of our loss. This processing isn't linear, it's more like a spiral, circling back to intense feelings again and again, even as we slowly move forward. Here's what actually helps. Stop expecting yourself to get over it on any particular schedule. Instead, learn to recognize your grief waves when they come and create simple rituals to ride them out. For me, it was sitting in Margaret's favorite chair with her favorite mug of tea. For Tom, it was driving to the ocean and talking to his wife out loud. The solution isn't forcing yourself to move on faster. It's giving yourself permission to grieve on your own timeline without judgment. Keep a grief journal where you track your good days and difficult days. You'll start to notice patterns, and those patterns help you prepare. Most importantly, when people ask how you're doing 3 months, 6 months, or even years later, it's perfectly normal to say, "Today is hard," even if yesterday wasn't. Your healing isn't linear, and that's completely normal. Have you experienced those unexpected waves of grief long after you thought you were doing better? Type waves in the comments if you know exactly what I'm talking about. I read every comment, and your experiences might help someone else feel less alone. If you are still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment point number 1 below to let me know you are here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Point number 2, your social circle will change in surprising ways. One of the cruelest surprises after losing Margaret was discovering who stayed in my life and who disappeared. People I expected to lean on vanished, while help came from the most unexpected places. Meet Eleanor, a 68-year-old widow from my support group. When Eleanor lost her husband Richard, she was shocked when their couple friends of 30 years suddenly stopped calling. "We'd had dinner with the Johnsons every month for decades," she told me, "but after the funeral casseroles were gone, so were they." Meanwhile, an acquaintance from her watercolor class, someone she barely knew, started bringing her coffee every Tuesday and sitting with her for hours. Why does this happen? Researchers at the University of Kansas found that many people experience social identity disruption after losing a spouse. Your identity as part of a couple changes overnight, and this shift confuses both you and your social network. Some friends simply don't know how to relate to the new you, while others may unconsciously fear that grief is somehow contagious. What's more, many of our friendships as couples are based on shared activities, travel partners, dinner companions, bridge club members. When one half of the couple is gone, the activities that sustain those relationships often fall away too. Instead of feeling betrayed by those who step back, focus on rebuilding connections intentionally. First, be direct about what you need. I learned to say, "I'd love company for dinner this Thursday," rather than waiting for invitations that might not come. Second, look for new connections based on your current reality. Grief support groups, senior centers, and volunteer organizations are filled with people who understand major life transitions. I met 3 of my closest friends now at a Cooking for One class at the community center, something I never would have done when Margaret was alive. Third, give yourself permission to nurture the relationships that bring you energy and let go of those that don't, even if they were important to you as a couple. Some friendships are for certain seasons of our lives, and that's okay. What surprised me most was discovering that some distant acquaintances became close friends, while some relatives stepped back. Has anything like this happened to you? Type circle in the comments if your social world shifted in ways you didn't expect after a major loss. Your insight might help someone feeling isolated right now. Point number 3, financial decisions need time, not urgency. The stack of paperwork after Margaret died was overwhelming. Insurance forms, property deeds, bank accounts, investments, all demanding decisions at the exact moment my brain was least equipped to make them. My biggest regret? Rushing into financial choices that couldn't be undone. Like my neighbor Frank, who lost his wife June after 49 years together. 3 weeks after the funeral, Frank decided their house held too many memories. He sold it quickly, for much less than its value, and moved into a small apartment. 6 months later, he deeply regretted the decision, missing the garden June had planted and the neighbors who had checked on them for years. The science behind this is fascinating. Grief actually changes how our brains function. Dr. Helen Fisher at Rutgers University found that profound grief activates the brain's reward center, the same region involved in addiction, which creates impulsivity and can impair decision-making. At the same time, studies show that chronic stress from grief can reduce activity in the prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for planning and rational thought. In simple terms, grief makes us more impulsive, exactly when we need to be most careful. Here's what I wish I'd known. Almost no financial decision needs to be made immediately after losing your spouse. Almost everything can wait. Create a simple system for handling urgent bills and paperwork. Put everything else, selling the house, giving away belongings, changing investments on a deliberate timeline. I tell widowers in my support group, nothing major in month 1, nothing irreversible in months 2 and 3, and have a trusted person review any significant decision in the first year. For immediate help, many communities have financial advisors who volunteer through senior centers to help recently widowed people sort bills from actual decisions. Your bank may also offer basic estate services. The most important thing is to recognize that your grief-affected brain will try to solve emotional problems with financial solutions. That empty feeling isn't fixed by selling the house, and the sense of loss isn't cured by giving away their belongings. Give yourself the gift of time. Your clearer future self will thank you. Have you made or witnessed a hasty decision after a loss that was later regretted? Type time in the comments if this resonates with you. Your experience might prevent someone else from making the same mistake. Point number 4, your physical health is at risk. No one warned me that grief could make me physically sick. 6 months after Margaret passed, I was in the emergency room with chest pains. The diagnosis: Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, quite literally a broken heart. My friend Doris, a 74-year-old widow, experienced something similar. After losing her husband of 46 years, she developed pneumonia, then shingles, then crippling insomnia, all within the first year. It was like my body was falling apart right after my heart did, she told me. Medical science confirms what Doris and I experienced. Researchers call it the widowhood effect, the increased risk of illness and death that follows losing a spouse. A study in JAMA Internal Medicine found that widowed seniors have a 66% higher risk of dying in the first 3 months after losing their spouse. Why does this happen? Chronic grief triggers a stress response that floods our aging bodies with cortisol and adrenaline, weakening our immune systems. At the same time, many widowed people sleep poorly, eat irregularly, forget medications, and skip doctor appointments, all while dealing with profound stress. I learned this lesson the hard way, but you don't have to. Protection starts with a simple wellness plan. Set alarms for medications, use pill organizers, and keep a basic health journal noting sleep, appetite, and energy levels. These small tracking habits can alert you to problems before they become serious. Ask a friend or family member to be your health buddy for the first year, someone who will check that you're making medical appointments and ask direct questions about how you're feeling physically, not just emotionally. Consider asking your doctor about temporary sleep support if insomnia becomes an issue. Quality sleep is foundational to both physical health and emotional processing. Most importantly, know that physical symptoms of grief, chest pain, digestive issues, frequent infections are common but deserve medical attention. Too many widowers dismiss these as just stress and suffer needlessly or risk serious complications. The body keeps score of our losses. Caring for your physical health isn't separate from grieving. It's part of it. The greatest gift you can give your departed spouse is taking good care of the body they love. Has grief affected your physical health in ways you didn't expect? Type health in the comments if you've experienced this connection between emotional loss and physical symptoms. Your insight might encourage someone to seek the medical care they've been putting off. Point number 5, finding purpose takes deliberate action. After the funeral, after the paperwork, after the initial shock, there came the silence. Days stretched endlessly with no reason to get out of bed. Without Margaret, I found myself asking, what's the point of any of this? This loss of purpose is perhaps the most dangerous part of widowhood and the least discussed. Consider my friend Helen, who had spent 42 years caring for her husband Robert through multiple health challenges. When he passed, she didn't just lose her spouse, she lost her daily purpose. For decades, her days had been structured around medications, appointments, and Robert's needs. Without those responsibilities, she felt useless. Everyone kept telling me to enjoy my freedom, Helen said, but freedom felt empty. I needed to matter to someone again. Psychologists call this role loss, when we lose not just a person but our identity in relation to them. Dr. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, found that those who survive profound loss do so by finding meaning again. His research showed that purpose is not just a nice addition to life, it's essential for survival. The mistake many of us make is waiting for purpose to find us. It won't. Creating meaning after loss requires deliberate action, even when you don't feel motivated. Start small. I began by simply committing to walk a neighbor's dog each morning, a living creature that needed me to show up. That single responsibility got me out of bed when nothing else could. Consider the skills you developed caring for your spouse. Were you good at managing medical information? Volunteer at a patient advocacy group? Did you become an expert in their condition? Consider peer support for families facing similar diagnoses. Many community organizations specifically need seniors. Your life experience is valuable. Schools need reading volunteers. Museums need docents. And food banks need steady helpers. The act of being needed creates purpose. For Helen, purpose came from teaching basic health monitoring to families in her church. The knowledge she gained, caring for Robert, now helps others, giving her loss a legacy of meaning. Don't wait until you feel better to find purpose. Purpose is part of how you heal. Even if you can only manage 1 hour a week at first, that connection to something larger than your grief will gradually expand. Have you found a meaningful activity that helped you through grief or a major life transition? Type purpose in the comments and share what helped you find meaning again. Your experience could be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Point number 6, your identity will transform. For 47 years, I was Margaret's husband. When someone asked, "Tell me about yourself," my marriage was always the first thing I mentioned. When that central identity disappeared, I no longer knew who I was. My friend Walter, a 78-year-old widower, put it perfectly. I kept trying to be the same person I was when Elaine was alive, But that man doesn't exist anymore. I needed to meet the new me. This identity crisis after losing a spouse is profoundly disorienting. Psychology professor Dr. Robert Niemeyer calls this narrative disruption, when the story you've been living suddenly ends and you have no script for what comes next. Here's what research has shown. Trying to maintain your exact pre-loss identity often leads to complicated grief and depression. Seniors who fare better are those who acknowledge that their identity will necessarily change and who actively participate in shaping that new self. The key insight is that your identity wasn't static before the loss, either. Throughout life, we constantly revise our sense of self. This is just a more dramatic chapter in that ongoing process. I discovered that building a new identity after loss involves both honoring what endures and exploring what might emerge. Start by listing your values and interests that existed independently of your role as a spouse. Were you always curious, creative? Did you value learning or helping others? These core aspects of yourself remain, even as their expression changes. Then, give yourself permission to explore new aspects of identity. Try activities your spouse wasn't interested in. Reclaim hobbies you set aside during your marriage. Walter, who had always deferred to his wife's preference for classical music, discovered a surprising love for jazz at age 80. For me, the breakthrough came when I stopped introducing myself as Margaret's widower and started saying, "I'm James, I teach woodworking at the senior center." That simple shift, leading with what I do now rather than who I've lost, helped me see a future again. Your marriage will always be a central part of your life story. But it's a chapter, not the entire book. The pages ahead are still being written. Has your sense of self changed after a major life transition? Type identity in the comments if you've experienced this transformation. Your journey might illuminate the path for others facing similar challenges. If you are still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment point number 6 below to let me know you are here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Point number 7. Joy is not a betrayal. The first time I laughed after Margaret died, really laughed, from my belly, I was immediately overwhelmed with guilt. How could I experience joy when she was gone? It felt like betrayal. This is perhaps the hardest lesson of all, allowing yourself to feel happiness again without guilt. My friend Clara, widowed at 65, described her first vacation after losing her husband. "I was watching this beautiful sunset in Florida, feeling peaceful for the first time in months, when this tidal wave of guilt crashed over me. Who was I to enjoy this view when David couldn't see it? I actually apologized out loud to him." This guilt is incredibly common. Psychologists call it survivor guilt, and it affects most widowed people. We somehow believe that our continued enjoyment of life diminishes our love for the person we've lost. But here's the truth that changed everything for me. Your happiness does not diminish your love. Your joy does not dishonor their memory. In fact, your ability to find moments of happiness is evidence of how well they loved you. Think about it. What would your spouse want for you? When I finally asked myself what Margaret would say about my guilt, I knew immediately. She would be furious with me for refusing joy in her name. The woman who spent 47 years trying to make me happy would never want to be the reason I couldn't laugh again. Neuroscience supports this perspective. Dr. George Bonanno's research on resilience after loss shows that those who allow themselves to experience positive emotions alongside grief, not replacing grief, but alongside it, recover more fully and preserve fonder memories of their loved ones. Start small. Give yourself permission to enjoy simple pleasures without analysis. The taste of good food, a beautiful day, the hug of a grandchild. Don't interrogate these moments of reprieve. Just experience them. When guilt arises, try this. Speak directly to your spouse in your mind. Tell them about the moment of joy. Thank them for the capacity to feel it. I often say, "You would have loved this, Margaret. Thank you for teaching me to notice beautiful things." Over time, I've come to understand that my moments of joy honor Margaret more authentically than unending misery ever could. Her love made me capable of happiness. Continuing to experience joy is how her influence lives on in the world. This final lesson took me longest to learn, but brought me the greatest peace. Joy and grief can coexist. Your heart is spacious enough to hold both your sorrow and your delight, and allowing both honors the full span of the love you shared. Have you struggled with guilt over feeling happy after loss? Type joy in the comments if you've experienced this conflict, and if you're willing, share how you've navigated it. Your wisdom could free someone else from unnecessary guilt. The journey after losing a spouse is not a straight road, but a winding path. Some days you'll feel like you're moving forward. Other days the grief will feel as fresh as the first day. Both experiences are normal. Both are part of healing. What I want you to remember is this: you are not alone on this path. Every struggle I've shared today, the waves of grief, the changing friendships, the financial decisions, the health challenges, the search for purpose, the identity questions, and yes, the guilt over joy. These are all normal parts of the widowhood journey. Your grief is evidence of a beautiful love, and while that love has changed form, it hasn't ended. It continues to shape you, guide you, and sometimes challenge you, but it needn't limit you. I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. Which of these 7 lessons resonated most with you? Do you have wisdom to add that might help someone else on this difficult road? If this conversation has been valuable to you, please consider supporting this channel with a like and subscription. Your support helps me continue creating content that addresses the real challenges we face as seniors. Not just the cheerful topics, but the difficult ones too. When you subscribe, you help build a community where we can share these important conversations. And please, share this video with someone who might need these insights. There's someone in your circle facing this journey right now, perhaps silently. Your share could be the hand they need to help them stand again. Thank you for walking this path with me today. Until next time, remember, the heart that knows great loss is also capable of great love, including love for the life that still awaits you.